5 points, that's about a third of a percentage point. Oil prices are rising right now on fears of what war will do to Middle Eastern fields, but spot traders say there are very few buyers or sellers. The quoted range is anywhere from $7 to $12 a barrel, higher than closing New York prices. That would put a barrel of light sweet crude just over the $40 mark. And the dollar is sinking against most major currencies, off 1 1/4 yen against the Japanese currency, falling about 2 pennies on the German mark and 1 1/4 cent on the British pound. We'll be following other markets in Asia and Europe through the night. David?
Bill Hartley reporting from the financial desk in New York. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to report that we can go back to Baghdad now and our 3 correspondents there. Let's see who picks up the phone.
Yes, this is Peter Arnett here. We're just temporarily off the air. There has been a lull for about 15, 20 minutes now. There has not been one tracer bullet in the sky. We don't see any more bombing in the distance, so for the time being anyway, it is quiet. I'll give you over to Bernie Shaw.
Thank you, Peter. Just to explain to our viewers why you did not hear from us for a nervously long time. For the past 20 minutes, I've been hiding under a table, and what happened was the security people made a sweep. They got very upset that there were 3 mortals on this floor, just 3 men standing in a hotel room. So I scampered to hide to make sure that if they pulled Arnett and Holloman out and took them downstairs into custody, at least there would still be one CNN person on the air. John?
I did the same thing you did, Bernie, only I hid under a bed, and it's amazing that somebody as large as I am can get under a bed that close to the ground, but I was able to do it at least. And the situation here now is, you know, the Iraqi authorities now know that we're here, and I don't know that they've been able to tell. I don't know whether there's satellite dishes that are tuned to CNN work in the blackout conditions.
I'm concerned that we not be summarily picked off one by one, so I'm going to yield the microphone to you, John, and to you, Peter, and I'm going to go back and hide under this table, not because I'm fearful of what's happening outside in the air, but I want to be sure that if there's another sweep, if you two get picked off, at least one of us will be here, and perhaps it might be a good idea to rotate this.
Sure, good idea, Bernie.
I'd like to assure our viewers the hotel security men were amiable. They let me stay. They understood. I explained that I didn't tell them we were reporting live from this hotel room, but I did say that we had been invited by the Minister of Information to witness what was going on here, and they accepted that explanation. 1 minute, please.
Here we go. I'm just looking out the window. The security people have forced us to close our windows, and maybe it's for our own good, maybe not. We don't know whether these windows are going to shatter under blasts or not, but there's some beautiful tracer fire outside now. It's way up in the air. It's bright red blasts and yellow blasts, and with the windows closed, we can't hear as well as we were able to hear before. But, you know, it continues to go on outside now. We don't, because we can't hear as well, we can't really tell you as much about what's going on as we would have been able to with the window open. Well, these security fellows also took some of the videotape out of one of our cameras. They say we'll get it back tomorrow. I'm a little skeptical that we will, but it was the beautiful pictures that we took to go along with the commentary that you heard earlier tonight on CNN.
You keep using that word, beautiful. This is not beautiful to me. Peter, you were being modest when you told viewers, you explained that you had the permission of the Interior, the Information Ministry. Ladies and gentlemen, you should have heard this masterful performance. I was in the other room on the floor under the table, and this Peter Arnett man said to the security guy, I spent 10 years in Vietnam. The bombs outside, they don't bother me. If I go down in the shelter, I go crazy. It was quite a performance, and he conned them.
That's right.
All right, Bernie and Peter and John, we'll be back to you. Thanks for that report. We're going now to Charles Jaco, who has been reporting to us from Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. Charles?
Yes, another false alarm, apparently. The air raid sirens went off here. We were led to believe it was some sort of air raid alert, either a missile alert or an air raid attack. We've stayed out here, losing phone lines, getting them back. What we can see is behind us, I don't know if you can see them, the lights of the city are on. It's rather unusual for a city that might be thought to be under attack, but the city is still brightly lit around the air bases here. There's no sign that the city is hunkered down or blacked out at all. Air raid sirens did sound. They sounded for a couple of minutes, then went off. Then the alarms here at the hotel went off, telling everyone to don their gas masks. All of us carry these now, and to get downstairs. Again, that it was apparently a false alarm. What we know, again, we can repeat, we heard earlier from Saudi military sources which is that the first one was a false alarm. Apparently, this one was a false alarm. It was a national air raid alert. The last we heard from the Saudi military, and we say Saudi military because no information has been forthcoming here from U.S. military sources, is that the airstrikes against Iraq by Allied air forces, primarily the U.S. Air Force, have been massive, and they kept emphasizing that word, massive, and that they have detected no retaliation, either missile or jet, against Saudi Arabia from that. The Saudis are still obviously on pins and needles. They've been living in a state of high war alert since early August and are very understandably nervous and concerned about what might happen. But so far, everyone here in Dhahran is safe, and there have been no problems except for bad cases of jangled nerves and scrambles down to the hotel basement into the shelter and putting on the gas mask. But all we can tell you right now is that apparently the attack was underway, it was massive, and so far at least, and this was our information as of about 20 minutes ago, so far, no retaliation, either missile or jet of any kind from Iraq, has been spotted. Charles Jaco, CNN, reporting live from Saudi Arabia.
All right, Charles, we'll switch just a few miles away and go to Riyadh, I believe, and Don Sweeney. We're expecting a report from him. Come in.
The military personnel in Saudi Arabia have just learned officially from their commander that they are in fact involved in Operation Desert Storm. A communique from General Norman Schwarzkopf issued just a few moments ago. Part of it says to the members of the military, you are a member of the most powerful force of our country in coalition with our allies that has ever assembled in a single theater to face such an aggressor. Now you have trained hard for this battle, and you are ready. He goes on to say a bit later, our cause is just. Now you must be the thunder and lightning of Desert Storm. May God be with you, your loved ones at home, and our country. It's signed H. Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of the forces in Saudi Arabia. This is John Sweeney, CNN, in Riyadh.
All right, John, any extraneous noises outside where you are? Is everything fine?
We had one air raid warning about an hour and a half ago. We have not heard anything since then. The traffic in the streets is quite early in the morning here. It's 4:45 in the morning. The traffic in the street is quite normal, and other than that, things are quite quiet in Riyadh.
All right, thank you very much. And now a moniker that I hope doesn't stick. Let's go back to the boys in Baghdad.
Thank you, David. The boys in Baghdad are here, and we want to tell you a couple of things. There have been calls we've learned from CNN, from other networks, asking about the safety of their people. There are 45 journalists still in Baghdad tonight, according to the Minister of Information. And as far as we know, all those 45 journalists are in this hotel, and everybody in this hotel is safe. It hasn't been hit. There's a series of fallout, or not, bomb shelters down in the basement, and virtually everybody except us is down there in those shelters. Bernie?
John, I made the trek downstairs into the bomb shelter and then came back upstairs. And indeed, all the journalists who were in this hotel when it happened, and most of them were because there had been a series of staff meetings, they are safe downstairs in the bomb shelter. No one is being permitted outside the hotel. I know for a fact, CBS News, if you're wondering, I saw with my own two eyes Larry Doyle, and we go way back to our days at CBS in Washington. He's fine. I saw Alan Tizzy. He was sitting on the floor sipping a glass of something. He seemed quite content. And there's a young thin chap who said he worked for CBS. I think he does radio. He's fine. Everybody is safe. We know you're worried about us, and we're concerned about ourselves, but everybody is safe. Peter, you look like you want to say something.
I simply want to say, Bernie, that this lull has lasted about 25 minutes now. No aircraft fire, no bombing. So it looks like this first phase is over, and we'll get back to you when it all starts again.
Okay, thanks, Peter Arnett. John Holloman, you want to say anything before we throw it back to our colleagues?
I just want to look out the window one last time and make sure that that it is as quiet as it seems to us. There are a few air bursts out here, but there's no anti-aircraft. I mean, there's nothing loud and noisy that we're hearing, and we don't feel any vibrations from outside. So I think it's probably safe for us to let the rest of the network broadcast a little bit tonight. From Baghdad, for Peter Arnett and Bernard Shaw, it's John Holloman. We'll be here if you need us.
Compelling reporting, gentlemen. Thank you very much. It's coming up on 5 o'clock in the morning in Baghdad, and behind that, not too far, will be light. President Bush is going to address the nation shortly, within 12 or 13 minutes, and the lull that they're talking about having lasted 25 minutes, may well continue until that is over. Also, we're expecting a briefing from the Secretary of Defense and Joint Chiefs Chairman Colin Powell at the Pentagon following the President's remarks. Now let's go to Norfolk, Virginia. An awful lot of ships carrying the planes that were in the air over Baghdad sailed out of Norfolk. Tom Mentir is there with those who stayed behind and with this report.
There are 35,000 Navy servicemen that have departed from Norfolk for the Persian Gulf. We are at the First Baptist Church of Norfolk, where just a few moments ago, the Reverend here made the announcement to a packed congregation. There was a concert going on inside. Joining us is Colleen Jackson. Colleen, your husband, Kevin, is a lieutenant commander, and he is aboard the Saratoga. Tell me what thoughts went through your mind as the Reverend made the announcement. Did you think it would come tonight?
No, I didn't think it would come tonight, and I didn't think it would hit quite so hard. I knew that there were airplanes launched. I don't know if he's one of them. I'm scared. I can't think of a better place to have been tonight than to have been in church.
The church has a support system where they will contact everyone and make sure that people are not alone who are members of this church. Is it a good system? Does it help?
Yes, it does help, and I have my own support system of my friends from this church. They're making sure that no one will be alone tonight. They're making sure that everyone that needs to have a support, a shoulder to cry on, a friend to pray with. They're just the most wonderful people to be associated with right now.
Will you watch the President tonight?
Yes, I probably will, just to see if there's any information that I can find at all about what's happening with my husband and with the men in his squadron.
If you could talk to the President right now, what message would you send to him?
That I believe in him, that I'm praying for him, and to just bring our men home as quickly and safely as he possibly can.
Colleen Jackson, thank you very much. I know this is a very difficult time for you. Thank you. So it is one of the Navy wives, and there are 35,000 of them here in Norfolk, Virginia tonight. They're all waiting for some type of word. I'm Tom Mentir, CNN, reporting live from Norfolk, Virginia.
Thanks, Tom. They, too, are among the brave, of course, all across this nation. Let's return now to Baghdad and our three correspondents.
Thanks, David. Yeah, we're here, and it's very quiet outside. There still are an occasional flash of light off to the south of our location, far in the distance. There have been no big blasts in the recent past. No signs of anti-aircraft fire right now. No sounds of jets overhead. It's that eerie stillness that we talked about earlier in the day. Bernie Shaw's here now.
I just want to make this observation. The President of the United States is coming up to address his nation and the world very shortly. And that we are on the air means that the government of Iraq, its ears are wide open, and it will be listening to President Bush very closely. We told you earlier in the week that the Information Ministry had received its own satellite dish, and prior to that, the Foreign Ministry had its. We've got to run. Somebody's knocking on the door. John and I are going to hide. Peter, here.
Yes, this is Peter Arnett signing off for a minute, and I'll see what the action is outside.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We assume that's not the Fuller Brush salesman. Let's go to Robert Vito. He's standing by now on the west coast of the United States at San Diego, another important naval base. Robert.
Well, I'm at an apartment complex in San Diego, and I've spent the last few hours with several wives whose husbands are serving aboard ships in the Persian Gulf. And we've all been glued to the television set watching CNN, mesmerized by what we've seen and by what we've heard. And it's been an emotional time for these ladies as they held hands and they prayed and had these feelings that I'll let them tell you about. Denise, what was your feeling, your reaction as you watched the events unfold?
I was scared, frightened for my husband, for the guys on his ship, and for the Iraqi people, because it's come to this, you know. This crazy man has brought us this far. I back my husband up. I'm very proud of what he does and who he is and where he's at right now. But I'm also scared because I want him home.
You're If you had a moment to talk to the president, what would you say to him, the president of the United States?
To get it done and over with as quickly as possible. I'd like to see Saddam Hussein brought in front of the UN Council and tried. That's the way I feel about it. This man shouldn't be walking free. I think he ought to be tried for what he's done and what he's put the Iraqi people as well as the United States and all the countries that are over there through.
Thank you, Denise. Kay, could you just come up? Kay Hunter is a lady who a lot of the wives who have husbands on ships lean on for support and help. What are your feelings?
I am very, very deeply concerned for all the people over there. We have to be strong together because it's our strength and our support of one another that is going to get us through this. And it's because of this group here and lots of groups like this all over the United States with the parents and the wives and the children that are going to help the families get through this. And we are here and we love them all and we're 1,000% behind the military. And Mr. Bush, get them over there and get it over with and get our husbands home.
Thank you. I know these are tough times. I'm going to ask Charlotte. Charlotte, could you just come over here and just share a moment with us and tell me your thoughts.
I'm very upset right now, of course, but I back up my husband 100%. I just want it over with and send him home.
Did you support the action?
I feel that they did what they had to do. And I feel sorry for all the people over there that lives are going to be lost. And I think Hassan should have to pay for this. I think he should not get away with what has happened here.
Thank you, Charlotte, for sharing your thoughts with us. So the feeling here is, of course, like elsewhere, that the war will be over soon. Robert Vito reporting live from San Diego.
Bye. Shortly, I'd like to point out first that a senior administration official has told CNN that no ground attack has occurred at this point. We repeat, no ground attack is underway. Australian warships have been authorized, 3 of them, to assist in the multinational force arrayed against Iraq to free Kuwait. The mission of President Bush tonight, which he will address the nation on in less than 5 minutes, is simply to free Kuwait. Let's go now to Doug James and get his report from Amman. Doug.
We understand that Jordan's King Hussein is currently, like many other people, watching CNN to see the latest developments from Iraq and Kuwait. So far, the people here have been told very little. There was a radio announcement approximately 1 hour ago giving them the bare details. They'll have to wait until 10 o'clock local time in the morning to get more information. With us at the moment is Kamal Abu Jabbar, a Middle East expert who's been following the Gulf crisis from the very beginning. And I wonder, sir, what you think is going through King Hussein's mind at this very moment?
I think what's going through his head right now is sadness and a terrible shock that in the final analysis something could not have been worked out in a decent way. That while President Bush is speaking about free Kuwait, why can't he speak about free Palestine? And I think that is what is going through his mind at this moment.
Would he have been taken by surprise, as many others have, with the nature of the attack this evening, the quickness of the attack this evening?
Yes, I think so, very much so. I don't think anybody in the whole world, anybody in his right mind expected this kind of reaction by the United States. I still believe that there was room for talk, and I am puzzled, like I'm sure His Majesty is puzzled at this moment. Why couldn't the United States have talked to Iraq in a meaningful and in a human manner?
What reaction do you think he'll have tomorrow? Will he have more to say in the morning?
His Majesty, yes, of course he will have to say. I'm sure of that, yes.
As you know, the country is in the middle of Iraq and Israel. This must be a primary concern of his at the moment.
Of course. I mean, you know, we have the Israeli army to our west that is armed to the teeth with all kinds of ugly weapons and willing and ready to use them at any moment.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes. This is Doug James reporting live from Amman, Jordan.
Thank you, Doug. The president is going to speak in about 3.5 minutes. We return now to Baghdad and our 3 correspondents there until then. Bernie Shaw.
David, I just want to explain to you and our viewers what happened. There was a knock at the door, and we had to scramble. I had to go to my hiding position under the table, but we're back here, and we're standing by. I had indicated that, in my opinion, we will be watching very closely and listening to what the president has to say. I was reporting that the information and foreign ministries can receive CNN. They will be watching and listening. And Peter Arnett, John Holloman, I'm going to be listening for signals from the President of the United States to Saddam Hussein.
One more thing before we go to the president. We just had another fairly loud blast on the outside, which was visible as a white flash in our windows. We'll stay here, and after the president's done, we'll give you an update on what happened while he was speaking. Peter? No, okay, we'll go back to Atlanta now.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We will be back to you. Perhaps another wave beginning. We have been informed that there will be more, possibly more air attacks tonight. The president's about to speak to the nation, and let's go to the White House and our senior correspondent, Charles Bierbauer. Well, he'll be with us shortly. The president has been described earlier this evening as expectant but calm and resolute, and he has said that this mission is to free Kuwait. Charles is ready now. Charles, come in.
David, President Bush, as you indicate very shortly, the speech anticipated. Perhaps we will get a little more detail as to just what it is that he has set in motion here. We know that he has been in contact with a number of his allies in this mission. One of them, the Australian Prime Minister, Mr. Hawke, has indicated he's received a call and ordered Australian ships to go into action as well. We do not have broad detail yet as to just how international this operation may be. I have heard some reports that the British are involved on the Kuwaiti side of the equation. Perhaps we will get more detail, actually more likely out of the Pentagon on that. President Bush, in a speech that he's been working on himself for the past 2 to 3 weeks, in fact, probably going back to his Christmas holiday up at Camp David, where he pretty much formulated his ideas and his final decisions on what he was going to do. We will hear an address of about 10 to 12 minutes in length, and as I say, it's one that we were told that he has worked on and pretty much written himself. David?
I heard, Charles, that there were actually 4 drafts, that a lot of thought has gone into this speech, and it is a delicate one. Perhaps it is one of the continuing diplomacy that was cut off by what he called the stiff arm from Saddam Hussein. Incidentally, Charles, we can hear some voices in the background behind you. Are the demonstrators still there?
There are still demonstrators in Lafayette Park, as there have been for the past several days. They have grown and diminished in numbers throughout the days, and as the weather got better and got worse, but there has been something of a constant vigil over there. It is within earshot if the president is normally listening, or if he's outside, as he has been on a couple of occasions. We do not know if they will have the opportunity that we will have to hear the president now.
All right, Charles, we go live to the Oval Office.
Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait. These attacks continue as I speak. Ground forces are not engaged. This conflict started August 2nd when the dictator of Iraq invaded a small and helpless neighbor. Kuwait, a member of the Arab League and a member of the United Nations, was crushed. Its people brutalized. 5 months ago, Saddam Hussein started this cruel war against Kuwait. Tonight, the battle has been joined. This military action, taken in accord with United Nations resolutions and with the consent of the United States Congress, follows months of constant and virtually endless diplomatic activity on the part of the United Nations, the United States, and many, many other countries. Arab leaders sought what became known as an Arab solution, only to conclude that Saddam Hussein was unwilling to leave Kuwait. Others traveled to Baghdad in a variety of efforts to restore peace and justice. Our Secretary of State, James Baker, held an historic meeting in Geneva, only to be totally rebuffed. This past weekend, in a last-ditch effort, the Secretary General of the United Nations went to the Middle East with peace in his heart, his second such mission, and he came back from Baghdad with no progress at all in getting Saddam Hussein to withdraw from Kuwait. Now, the 28 countries with forces in the Gulf area have exhausted all reasonable efforts to reach a peaceful resolution. have no choice but to drive Saddam from Kuwait by force, we will not fail. As I report to you, air attacks are underway against military targets in Iraq. We are determined to knock out Saddam Hussein's nuclear bomb potential. We will also destroy his chemical weapons facilities. Much of Saddam's artillery and tanks will be destroyed. Our operations are designed to best protect the lives of all the coalition forces by targeting Saddam's vast military arsenal. Initial reports from General Schwarzkopf are that our operations are proceeding according to plan. Our objectives are clear. Saddam Hussein's forces will leave Kuwait. The legitimate government of Kuwait will be restored to its rightful place, and Kuwait will once again be free. Iraq will eventually comply with all relevant United Nations resolutions, and then, when peace is restored, it is our hope that Iraq will live as a peaceful and cooperative member of the family of nations, thus enhancing the security and stability of the Gulf. Some may ask, why act now? Why not wait? The answer is clear. The world could wait no longer. Sanctions, though having some effect, showed no signs of accomplishing their objective. Sanctions were tried for well over 5 months, and we and our allies concluded that sanctions alone would not force Saddam from Kuwait. While the world waited, Saddam Hussein systematically raped, pillaged, and plundered a tiny nation, no threat to his own. He subjected the people of Kuwait to unspeakable atrocities, and among those maimed and murdered, innocent children. While the world waited, Saddam sought to add to the chemical weapons arsenal he now possesses an infinitely more dangerous weapon of mass destruction, a nuclear weapon. And while the world waited, while the world talked peace and withdrawal, Saddam Hussein dug in and moved massive forces into Kuwait. While the world waited, while Saddam stalled, more damage was being done to the fragile economies of the Third World, the emerging democracies of Eastern Europe, to the entire world, including to our own economy. The United States, together with the United Nations, exhausted every means at our disposal to bring this crisis to a peaceful end. However, Saddam clearly felt that by stalling and threatening and defying the United Nations, he could weaken the forces arrayed against him. While the world waited, Saddam Hussein met every overture of peace with open contempt. While the world prayed for peace, Saddam prepared for war. I had hoped that when the United States Congress, in historic debate, took its resolute action, Saddam would realize he could not prevail and would move out of Kuwait in accord with the United Nations resolutions. He did not do that. Instead, he remained intransigent, certain that time was on his side. Saddam was warned over and over again to comply with the will of the United Nations, leave Kuwait or be driven out. Saddam has arrogantly rejected all warnings. Instead, he tried to make this a dispute between Iraq and the United States of America. Well, he failed. Tonight, 28 nations, countries from 5 continents, Europe and Asia, Africa and the Arab League, have forces in the Gulf area standing shoulder to shoulder against Saddam Hussein. These countries had hoped the use of force could be avoided. Regrettably, we now believe that only force will make him leave. Prior to ordering our forces into battle, I instructed our military commanders to take every necessary step to prevail as quickly as possible and with the greatest degree of protection possible for American and Allied servicemen and women. I've told the American people before that this will not be another Vietnam. And I repeat this here tonight. Our troops will have the best possible support in the entire world, and they will not be asked to fight with one hand tied behind their back. I'm hopeful that this fighting will not go on for long, and that casualties will be held to an absolute minimum. This is an historic moment. We have in this past year made great progress in ending the long era of conflict and Cold War. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders. We have no argument with the people of Iraq. Indeed, for the innocents caught in this conflict, I pray for their safety. Our goal is not the conquest of Iraq. It is the liberation of Kuwait. It is my hope that somehow the Iraqi people can, even now, convince their dictator that he must lay down his arms, leave Kuwait, and let Iraq itself rejoin the family of peace-loving nations. Thomas Paine wrote many years ago, "These are the times that try men's souls." Those well-known words are so very true today. But even as planes of the multinational forces attack Iraq, I prefer to think of peace, not war. I am convinced not only that we will prevail, but that out of the horror of combat will come the recognition that no nation can stand against a world united. No nation will be permitted to brutally assault its neighbor. No president can easily commit our sons and daughters to war. They are the nation's finest. Ours is an all-volunteer force, magnificently trained, highly motivated. The troops know why they're there, and listen to what they say, for they've said it better than any president or prime minister ever could. Listen to Hollywood Huddleston, Marine Lance Corporal. He says, "Let's free these people so we can go home and be free again." And he's right. The terrible crimes and tortures committed by Saddam's henchmen against the innocent people of Kuwait are an affront to mankind and a challenge to the freedom of all. Listen to one of our great officers out there, Marine Lieutenant General Walter Boomer. He said, "There are things worth fighting for. A world in which brutality and lawlessness are allowed to go unchecked isn't the kind of world we're going to want to live in." Listen to Master Sergeant J.P. Kendall of the 82nd Airborne. "We're here for more than just the price of a gallon of gas. What we're doing is going to chart the future of the world for the next 100 years. It's better to deal with this guy now than 5 years from now." And finally, we should all sit up and listen to Jackie Jones, an Army lieutenant, when she says, "If we let him get away with this, who knows what's going to be next?" I've called upon Hollywood and Walter and JP and Jackie and all their courageous comrades in arms to do what must be done. Tonight, America and the world are deeply, deeply grateful to them and to their families. And let me say to everyone listening or watching tonight, when the troops we've sent in finish their work, I'm determined to bring them home as soon as possible. Tonight, as our forces fight, they and their families are in our prayers. May God bless each and every one of them and the coalition forces at our side in the Gulf, and may he continue to bless our nation, the United States of America.
President Bush, live from the Oval Office in a 12-minute address to the nation and the world, saying at the outset his minimal demands. Saddam Hussein's forces will leave Kuwait and Iraq will comply with all relevant UN resolutions. Let's go now to Charles Jaco, who has word on airplanes in Saudi Arabia. Charles.
Yes, David. One high-ranking Saudi official has told us that he has been in touch with the highest levels in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. According to this information, he claims that all the planes from this first raid, Saudi and U.S. planes, have returned safely with no loss of planes and no loss of pilots. That's according to a high-ranking Saudi official here with contacts in Riyadh. King Fahd, the King of Saudi Arabia, is said to be meeting right now in Riyadh with members of his court and members of his government. I asked one Air Force officer here about the raid, how it went. Information was very hard to come by, but he would only tell me that the raid was, quote, more successful than we imagined, close quote. We can only imagine what that means. So the preliminary, and I must say these are preliminary indications we're getting here from a high-ranking Saudi official and an Air Force officer, is that the first wave of the raid on Iraq at least was successful, and that at least all the Saudi and United States planes have returned without any loss. David?
Saudi Arabia, thank you very much. The force may indeed be larger than we had been led to believe, and with word on that is our correspondent who covers world affairs for us, Ralph Begleiter. I'm sorry for that lapse. Ralph, what have you for us?
David, according to Saudi officials, the number of Saudi planes in the air tonight was 150, joining the American fighters. And according to the Saudis, the air attacks were much more extensive than merely Baghdad. We, of course, had our reporting only from Baghdad because of the limitations of coverage in Iraq. But according to these Saudi sources, the attacks were countrywide throughout Iraq. Involved in the mission tonight, along with British and American forces. The Saudi sources also say that Saudi Ambassador Prince Bandar was here at the State Department this morning at 8 o'clock for a meeting with Secretary of State Baker, a very brief meeting, about 10 minutes long, during which Baker asked for the Saudi green light to go ahead with the attack today. Prince Bandar telephoned King Fahd from Baker's office itself, received the green light, gave it to Baker immediately. That was the prearranged signal that the United States and the Saudis had decided on in order to get the Saudi government on board for the attack. In fact, that was the language used by King Fahd. He said, "We are on board." In addition, we've learned that Israel was pre-notified of the attack as well through several channels. The Saudis here in the Soviets here in Washington say they were not informed through the embassy in Washington, but presume that direct channels between Washington and Moscow were utilized for pre-notification. David?
World Affairs correspondent Ralph Begleiter, thank you very much, reporting live from the State Department. Everyone wants us to go back to Baghdad, and so do I, where Bernard Shaw, Peter Arnett, and John Holloman have been reporting this dramatic evening. Gentlemen.
This is Bernie. We have listened to the President's address, and as he indicated in speaking, or while speaking, hostilities were going on, and indeed, we could see far off in the distance lights flashing. We could hear the bombs, and we could see the tracer fire from the anti-aircraft batteries. As I listened to President Bush tonight, it seemed to me that he was telling Saddam Hussein, you are going to quit Kuwait. But I also heard Peter Arnett and John Holloman an implied threat to this man that the forces have gone against the nuclear plant that was a building. The forces have gone against the chemical arsenal. But I heard the President saying that we might not stop here. He did declare that this was not an invasion of Iraq. He wants to cripple this man's military capability. I should also tell you that we do not know where President Saddam Hussein is at this moment, nor do we know where other members of his government are located. I'm going to pass the microphone around because each of my colleagues has something to contribute. John Holloman.
Bernie, I think you're right about the President's message to President Saddam Hussein. It's a message of this is it. This is the beginning of what we're going to do. I'm sure the president would like it very much if President Hussein would respond right away by, offering to pull out of Kuwait or something, but we'll have to wait and see what he's going to do later on. The last time we saw President Saddam Hussein was on television tonight in video that we know was at least a day old from a tour that he made of Kuwait. Excuse me. I'm now looking out the window of our bureau here, and I can tell you that off in the distance there continues to be the sounds of what appear to me to be bombs. During the president's message, there were flashes of light from a distance probably as much as 15 or 20 miles away, probably to the south of where we are. And at this moment, there are no signs of anti-aircraft fire in the downtown Baghdad area, but there continue to be these flashes of light off in the distance to the south. Peter Arnett, your reflections.
Yes, John, I couldn't help thinking as I heard the bombs, the distant bombs, punctuating President Bush's speech, that his reference to Vietnam, this will not be another Vietnam. And I was thinking back to Vietnam, where I spent many years, to a similar raid in 1972, a B-52 strike on Hanoi. The interesting thing was that raid came at the end of the Vietnam War, near the end of the Vietnam War, and many say it helped end that war. This raid on Baghdad and elsewhere in this region tonight is at the beginning of this war, and maybe it certainly won't be a Vietnam. John?
Peter, while you were speaking, the sky lit up again with some more apparently chaff to fool Iraqi radar in the sky. There are bunches of groups of white lights and yellow lights that go through the sky and then blink out mysteriously, apparently designed to confuse the anti-aircraft guns. And at this point, the anti-aircraft guns are not firing, so if they're intended to confuse, they are not, the guns are not firing. Well, as I speak, off in the distance, I see some anti-aircraft fire is going up pretty far away from our location, and you might be able in the background to hear some of that out the window. Yeah, Bernie Shaw is back again, and then we want to talk to someone who's just come up from the shelters downstairs who will brief our loved ones about how things are there. Bernie.
Yes, I was just, Ingrid has been sitting here on the floor. I don't know how you managed to get past those guards and make that long hike up those 14 stories that I made about an hour ago. But what is the situation in the bomb shelter? And Ingrid, you know all of the members of the press corps, the other American networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, they've been highly concerned about their people. So take your time now and give us a fill on what the situation is in the bomb shelter.
Well, what you can see from up here, you can hear down in the shelter is low, very low and quiet thumps. There was a little bit of confusion at the beginning. The press went down there, other hotel guests, hotel employees who also live in a compound nearby. A number of mothers and their children at a certain time, perhaps half an hour after the attack started, you heard chants of down, down, Bush, so we even had a little demonstration down in the shelter. The interesting thing was that some of the government guides that accompany us during the day when we try and work, and some of the hotel security people are walking around with Kalashnikovs and gas masks, which is something that was a little bit of a surprise to see. And I did see a lot of our colleagues down there, some of them who had been up on higher floors taking pictures, and they were taken by security people downstairs to a shelter, ostensibly for our own protection. Bernie?
And what is the mood of the people in the shelter?
Well, it's actually quieted down a lot. The confusion has ceased. Some of the people have gone to sleep. There's still a lot of milling around. The people are trying to get the BBC or anything to know what's going on in the outside world. There's a lot of questions about what's going on in Kuwait, Jordan, Israel, other spots that may be involved, and people are very curious to come above ground, waiting for daylight just to see what has happened.
Even in the midst of these raids around Baghdad, life goes on, and as incredible as it sounded incredible to my ears, John Holloman, a rooster crowing about 20 minutes ago as the bombs were going off out there over the horizon. Very strange sound.
I'll say, Bernie, and it's a long time before sunrise here. It's still a couple of hours before we're going to see the first rays of sunlight off to the east. But this rooster was obviously confused by all the military hardware arrayed and displayed in the skies of Baghdad. Peter Arnett standing by to talk to us some more, but I'm just going to look out the window once before I give the microphone to Peter. You can still see flashes in the sky, but still, strangely, eerily, there are no fires, which is an indication. President Bush said in his speech that they were not attacking civilian targets here. They were attacking specific military targets, and it appears that's correct from everything we can observe from our window.
Yes, thank you, John. By my watch in this dim light of this hotel room, this these series of raids have been going on for about 2 hours and 50 minutes. They began at around 2:30 Baghdad time in the center of the city. The government installations or installations of one kind or another, maybe anti-aircraft, strategic communication centers, began in the center and stayed in this particular part of town for about an hour and a half, but they are moving outwards of a large perimeter. All around the horizon, we see explosions. There must have been scores and scores of raids that we have witnessed so far. Witnessed, when I say we witnessed, we've seen the flashes and we have seen the anti-aircraft fire going up. But it's obvious that these raids are continuing, and we can see the evidence of that. Here's Bernie Shore again.
Peter, I'm trying to clear my mind of everything to keep the chronology of events uppermost. And I am anticipating two things at daybreak. One is more a hope than an anticipation. We hope that, one, when it's safe to go outside, we can find somebody in authority in this government to talk to. We do not know where President Saddam Hussein is at this moment as these raids continue. The other thing I anticipate is that Saddam Hussein will be beseeched by friends, some of them, to quit Kuwait. And, of course, you have to assume that he's going to have his supporters who will say, fight on. But I can't wait for daybreak because we've got even more work to do, and it's going to be interesting to see whether we can find anybody responsible in this government here in Baghdad to respond not only to the attacks, but also to the address of the President of the United States. Peter?
Yes, indeed, Bernie. Now, President Saddam Hussein has made it clear in the past week that he almost welcomed this war and he was prepared to fight it. So as we see it continuing, we'll report back to Atlanta, but let me give you John Holloman first.
Now we're going to go back to Atlanta to see what else our other network correspondents have to tell us.
John, Peter, and Bernie, thank you very much. We'll certainly be back with you. It's not quite sunup yet in Baghdad. By the way, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, is reporting that 5 Iraqi Scud missiles have been fired on Saudi Arabia, and the French embassy in Riyadh confirms that at least 1 Scud missile was fired. Those are the first reports of effective or possibly effective retaliatory firing from Iraq outward. Well, we've just heard from the very interior of a bombed country, Iraq. Let's go now to the interior of the United States, the hometown of the late President Harry S. Whoops, we're switching our plans now to go to Charles Jaco in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, we've just been given a statement by General Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of the U.S. Central Command and the head of Operation Desert Storm, to the troops. I'll read part of it very briefly. This morning at 0300 Saudi time, we launched Operation Desert Storm, an offensive campaign that will enforce the UN resolutions. And this is directed to the troops, all the troops, especially the U.S. troops. During my visits with you, I have seen in your eyes a fire of determination to get this job done quickly so we all may return to the shores of our great nation. My confidence in you is total. Our cause is just. Now you must be the thunder and lightning of Desert Storm. May God be with you. Signed, General H. Norman Schwarzkopf, Commander-in-Chief, U.S. Central Command. The indications we're getting so far are that the operation to this early date is working fairly well. David?
Well, tonight we know why they call him Stormin' Norman. Thank you for that. We've just been in the heartland of Iraq with our 3 fine correspondents there. Let's go to the heartland of America now, the home.